So what is diastasis recti and how do you test for it and when do you need to be worried about it? So diastasis recti is when these recti muscles, which are the external muscles, if you were very, very strong through these external muscles, you'd have like a six-pack. When those muscles have abnormally come apart and the seam along the center, the elbow linea, when that has become stretched out and weakened. So this happens to everybody to a certain degree in pregnancy, and most of the time the muscles come back after pregnancy when in that postnatal recovery period, but for some people they don't, and that is an indication of underlying weakness, generally in the pelvic floor, which is part of our core system, in fact the beginning of our core system, the pelvic floor, and then also the deep transverse abdominal muscles. So in order to help these external muscles come together, we also first of all need to be working on pelvic floor and those deep core muscles that stabilize the spine and really kind of almost like the corsetory muscles that squeeze in towards the spine and help your lower back. Now to check for diastasis recti, you just get onto your back, so you can either do this yourself or get somebody else to check for you. I'm just going to put a brick underneath my head so I can see you better. So you have your knees bent, and what we're looking to do is feel below the tummy button, on the tummy button and above the tummy button along that seam, and we're looking to see how wide apart the muscles are. So we measure with one finger or two fingers or three fingers or four, might even be able to get a whole fist in there. So we're looking for the width of those muscles apart, and we're also looking for the quality of the tone, if you like, of the fascia, the linea alba, and whether we can sink our fingers down or whether there's good tone underneath. So what you want to do is just lift up your top and feel, first of all, let's just go above the tummy. So you take your fingers crossways and you kind of feel into that central seam, and on an exhale you just take your head up off, so I'm just taking it off the brick slightly, and I can feel the two ridges, and they're kind of hard like the edge of your knuckles, that you can feel the two ridges and you can kind of feel in how far they are apart. So mine's together there, but sometimes you've got one or two fingers, 1 or 2 centimeters is normal. Most people have a little bit of a gap here. Remember, we also look about the quality down below. So let's take it down onto the tummy button, right across the tummy button, and just like a zip, when a zip kind of pulls apart, it's often that central seam that is a bit more gappy. So quite often the gap is around the tummy button, and this is also a common point for hernias, because the weakness, intestines can start to push through. So this is where we might find that weakness. So we put our hand on the tummy button, exhaling and taking the head up, and I'm just going to push down into the center there. Good, and then slowly come back down again. So again, you're looking to see how many fingers, or maybe even a fist, that you can put down, and also the quality, whether it's really spongy or whether it sort of feels like the pad of your hand, which is what you're hoping it does look like. And then going down below, a couple of maybe 3 finger widths down below, and measuring here. So just exhaling to take the head up off the mat, and then going back down again. And take a note of your measurements at these 3 different points, so that as you start to strengthen your pelvic floor and your deep core muscles, and you start to work on those recti muscles coming together, you can measure your progress, because we all, progress takes a little bit of time, and it's really nice to be able to measure and see how well we're progressing. Now, what was I going to say? I was going to say that, the quality of the tissue underneath, that is really the prime thing we're looking for. When you put your finger in the middle here, also try just activating your pelvic floor muscles so you can feel those deep transverse abdominal muscles and the pelvic floor muscles activating underneath. So if you do an exhale and you do a drawing in and up like you're zipping up from your pelvic floor right up towards your tummy button, if you can feel those deeper muscles kind of drawing in and up and starting to activate, then you know that you are on the right path. If you can't feel anything, then we're looking at sort of disconnect from the tummy button down, and we really do need to start working with possibly a pelvic floor physiotherapist to help us potentially release tension patterns from the pelvic floor, so that we can start to get a good contraction, a good deep lift in and up. It's then that we can start to work on these external muscles. We need to go in stages. Once we have got a good drawing in and up, once we've got those deep muscles activated, we can add in the external muscles here. So this is what I advocate: exhaling, drawing in and up, holding that, and then an exhale again to lift the head up, and that works on these recti muscles here, and then dropping down. So it's an exhale to draw in and up, another exhale to take the head off, and you can even use your hands to kind of squeeze into the center line, almost literally pulling the flesh into the center line, into that central seam here. Exhaling, exhaling again, bringing those tummy button, the flesh into the center seam, and then back down and let everything release. So I hope that helps, just to get an idea of working with closing gap, but just knowing that it is a symptom of a general weakness as opposed to a diagnosis of its own accord. A lot of people have got a little bit of a gap, but it's a functional gap, and it doesn't give them back pain, it doesn't give them leaking, anything like that. It's functional. It's generally when there's a wider gap, we'll also find that people are suffering from back pain, from pelvic floor dysfunction, and so on and so forth. So it starts with down here, and then we work our way up, and then we work our way inwards. Okay, hope that helps. Have a fantastic day.